One of the things that a lot of business owners miss is actually doing the math. You should not be closing or winning every deal you're in front of. If you are, you're leaving money on the table. So if you meet with 10 people and you win 10 contracts, you are doing something terribly wrong.
Welcome to Jobbers Masters of Home Service, a podcast for home service pros by home service pros. We are in sunny Las Vegas, and today is my favorite topic, sales, turning a no into a yes. I'm Adam Sylvester. Today's guest is Dom Rubino. Many of you know him as the Profit Toolbelt podcast host. He's a business coach, he's an author. Dom, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Very excited, actually.
Me too.
Yeah.
So I know you're a big fan of sales. I'm a big fan of sales. We're going to get into it. But tell our listeners just briefly who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name's Dominic Rubino, and as you said, I'm the host of actually two podcasts. One's called Profit Toolbelt, and the other one is pretty specific. It's called the Cabinet Maker Profit System Podcast.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty specific. But there's a big cabinetry and architectural millwork community out there that is in business as well. So we serve that market.
Very cool. Very niche, but
Yeah.
still big.
Still big.
Yeah.
And I started in sales. I started in sales when everybody thought sales was a last resort. And I actually really like it. I like helping people. And I found that as long as I approached it from being always curious and caring about people, that I could make the best solution for them. Sales is a great place to be.
Yeah, I agree. And any business owner out there who's been in business more than 5 minutes knows
Yeah.
without sales, the engine comes to a screeching halt and you can't run a business without sales. And so let's assume the listeners believe that sales is important. I think we all,
Right.
for the most part, sales is key. So let's talk about the strategies to turning a no into a yes. There's nothing better than
Yeah.
turning a no into a yes.
There is nothing better because that's the job that we're up for. And, it really comes just down to being curious and caring. That's it. We just have to be curious and care. So when somebody's talking to me, when I'm talking to a prospect, I really want to understand why they want to do something. And then I have to care enough to give them the best solution for that. We can overcomplicate it. I can overcomplicate it. I'm sure we all can, a million ways. But really, just be really curious. Ask good questions. Listen very carefully and care to help them.
What are some good questions?
You know what? Open-ended questions. And you've probably heard this before, but imagine that we're walking into what seems like a simple bathroom reno, downstairs bathroom reno.
Okay.
It sounds like a dumb question, but I'm going to be down there in front of the bathroom and say, hey, folks, you have a perfectly working bathroom. I know everything's avocado green and you have shag rug on the floor, but tell me, why do you want to change this bathroom? It works fine. I can assume why they want to change it, but until I ask them, I don't know. And what I'm going to get from that is the magic. They're going to say things like, well, it's just about time we do that.
Mm-hmm.
But why now? This bathroom's been here for clearly 47 years. You guys have owned the home for, I think you said 12 years. Why now? And if I dig deep enough, I'm going to find out their mother-in-law is about to move in. She needs special handicap access, and she can't be in a shag rug green avocado bathroom. Now we've got a deal. Now I'm curious and I care, and I'm the contractor they're going to choose.
If you say the same thing they say, it's not magical. It's only magic if they say it.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
if you can start guessing, I bet you guys want to do this because it's been a while. Well, yeah, that lands flat. If you ask them and they say it, it's so different.
And it's the same with our kids, right? When something's our kid's idea, and that's the peak of parenting, when we can make something we want them to do their idea. Oh yeah, we've landed on success.
Absolutely. Okay, so open-ended questions are so key. I love that you said that. What are some other questions? Let's keep going.
Well, you know what? It's actually easy to put systems in place in sales. And let me start with the reason that people have trouble with sales is because they allow it to be a random process. It's not.
That's
It is
right.
chess. It's chess. And I have to understand all of the stages of the sales process really clearly. It just comes down to asking 4 simple questions. I just asked those 4 questions. There's 2 extra little bonus ones I'll throw in there at the end. But I have to ask them questions about budget, about their need, about their timing, and about their trust in me. That's it. Those are going to be the buckets, if you will. So as long as I'm always asking budget, need, timing, or trust questions, I'm gold. The other 2 bonus questions are technical. So if you're selling, we used renovations a second ago, so let's say painting. If you're selling painting services, the family's technical question might be, what about the smell? Or what kind of paint are you using? Or is this environmentally sensitive? That's their technical question. If you're doing window washing or window cleaning, there'll be different technical questions, but you know what those are because typically we're experts in our trade already.
Dom, those two technical questions are where my people from experience have gotten tripped up, because from a technician standpoint, as soon as the client asks that technical question, they jump all over it. They're so excited. Oh, finally I can tell them everything I know about it.
Yeah.
And they just throw up all of the client. Here's the secret. The client didn't really care about what paint you use.
No.
That's the dirty little secret.
Yeah, it's a data dump. They don't need it.
Yeah. Dom, this is a great conversation. I'm going to pause real quick to talk about Jobber. So one of the things I like about Jobber so much is because it makes me look professional. It's so common for clients to say, are you guys a franchise? Because they assume because Jobber is so professional looking and so sleek and so smooth that we're this big, huge franchise. And I say, no, we just use Jobber. You can be professional too. You can have Jobber as well. Go to jobber.com/podcast deal. New users can get an exclusive discount and take your business to the next level with more professionalism with Jobber. Okay, so Dom, a lot here I want to unpack. The 4 questions, let's unpack those a little bit because I think those are really fundamental. So let's go back, let's unpack those one at a time.
Okay, so we'll start with B, which is budget. I write it down as a quadrant, BNTT, budget, need, timing, and trust. So under budget, I have to understand that they're going to have questions about budget, and I can't be afraid to ask about the budget. And when I was a younger contractor, I was afraid to talk about money. How many people are afraid to talk about the money, right? But it's got to be front and center. The reason I'm there to do the work is because I'm going to get paid, and they know they're going to pay me for that work. So we have to talk about budget. Now, here's where the real magic, the real technical part of sales comes in, is I actually need 3 or 4 different ways to ask them about the budget without it sounding like it's a budget question.
Okay.
Right? So an example might be, let's use painting again, because that's what we mentioned already. Have any of your friends painted the outside of their home lately?
Great question.
Right? Because I don't have to say, oh, this looks like a $16,000 job. They can then tell me, oh, yeah, one of our friends did paint the house. And like, how did that go? How was their contractor? And I'll even say, why don't you use that guy? And because I'll throw it on the table right then. I need to know, which comes down to trust in the other quadrant. But they're going to tell me what the price was. No matter what they tell me, I'll say, did you think that was good value? And then they're going to tell me what their opinion of that price was. So there's budget. So the homework for anybody, if you guys are taking notes, is under each of these categories, write yourself 3 questions that you need to ask under each of those 4 categories of a prospect so that you get the information that you need.
Yeah, that's great. Now, if at this point you would have already asked, I'm assuming if it was a referral, you would know if this was a referral. And so they might have, their neighbor might have hired you.
Right.
And then you can go down the same line. Like, what did they think? And what did you like about their house? And what did you think? And then you can get to the price at that point. Because the price is just the hang up for so many inexperienced salespeople.
Yeah. And we think everything relies on price, but it doesn't.
It doesn't.
And we can test that right now, by the way. Think about the car you drive. Was it the cheapest vehicle on the market?
No way.
Or did you get something safe so that your kids could be taken care of?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get something fast because you're 50 and you want to, but what was your reason behind making that purchase where the emotion overtook the logic of the purchase? Because you can get the cheapest car on the market right now, but you and I chose not to buy that vehicle for our own personal reasons. Same thing for painting the house, pressure washing, doing a bathroom reno, doing roofing, anything like that.
What if they say they charge too much? The other contractor we're talking about in this situation. What if they have a negative view of that? How do you handle that situation?
So, it's interesting because I encounter that question a lot. People say, Dom, you don't understand. I get no a lot. And my answer to that is good. I'm glad. And one of the things that a lot of business owners miss is actually doing the math. You should not be closing or winning every deal you're in front of. If you are, you're leaving money on the table. So if you meet with 10 people and you win 10 contracts, you are doing something terribly wrong.
Right.
Now you're winning a lot of jobs and you're busy. That's great. I'll bet you all your people are getting paid. Your vendors are getting paid, but you're not getting paid. So it's probably time to change who you're marketing to so that you can market upmarket or to a different market that can afford what you want to sell. And that gives you the gross profit margins that you need.
This is a great time to step back a bit. And do you do any pre-qualifying over the phone?
Oh, I'm so glad you asked that. Absolutely. So I don't like doing a one-call close. I don't like just meeting you and saying, hey, let's just keep using painting. But it could be anything. Slab jacking, mold remediation, roofing. Doesn't matter. But we'll keep using painting. I don't want to close you on the first meeting. That's the wrong way to approach this. There has to be a phone pre-qualification first.
Okay.
Because you have to meet my criteria before I'm going to come and see you. One of the things that we deal with a lot, because I'm a business coach, we're dealing with owners' time all the time, is Tire kickers.
Yeah.
How do you stay away from tire? And I've got some horrible, funny against me, tire kicker stories. But yeah, we have to make sure they're legitimate. And guess what I ask on the phone call? You're going to be so amazed when you hear it. I ask questions about budget, need, timing, trust, and those two funny little technical questions that come up in our industry every time.
Really? How do you do that? Let's lay it out in color for our listeners. How do you do that exactly?
So, I mean, we could do it as a role play if you like, but maybe I'll just go through it a little bit quicker. So when they call in, I'm going to build rapport. Hey, how did you find me? This is great. I want to find out who the decision makers are. This is very important. So
Okay.
let's say that I've got, just for the sake of it, I've got the wife on the phone.
Okay.
So I'll say, how did you and your husband find me? Oh, no, it's just me making this decision. Oh, it's just you in the household? Okay, that's great. But I got to find out really carefully who the decision makers are in that deal, right? It doesn't matter to me who the decision makers are. I need to know who the decision makers are because they both have to be present when I finally show up. Otherwise, there's no deal. That deal's dead.
Yeah.
Done.
Go reschedule
Dead.
if only one of them
Yeah,
is
I
there.
won't go. So first we find that out, and then we just start having a conversation. Oh, so you want, we'll keep using painting. So you want to paint your home? Why now? Tell me a little bit more
Yes.
about that. Have you budgeted for this already? What's your budget? And of course, they're going to say, we don't know. That's up to you to tell me.
Yeah, exactly.
Say,
right.
I'd love to be able to tell you that. And I can do it after a few more questions. But if they keep pushing, then I go to humor. I'll say, Mrs. Jones, how long is a piece of string? Like, I don't know. And it's not that I don't know how to price your house. I do it all day long. I just don't know your home and your situation and what the condition of your home is and what you want. So if we both decide to meet, I'll be able to look at your home, talk to both of you, and I'll give you a solid price. But let me ask, you thought about painting your home? Have any of your other friends painted their house recently? And now we're back, right? So I'm going to move off budget for a second because in that qualifying call, I also want to talk about time.
Okay.
Why now? Why do you want to paint the house now? I know the neighborhood you live in, those homes were built in the 80s, so they've been there for a while. Why today? And by the way, my business has been around for 3 years, 6 years, 9 years, whatever the number is. Why today? But ask that question, right? So we've got budget, we've got timing. Then what about need? Why do you need to paint the house? And then trust. Why did you choose me? So that's the basic conversation. It doesn't have to be complicated.
How do you handle the trust?
I want to find out how they know me or how they chose me.
Okay.
Right? If I came up through a Groupon or I don't know, we just searched the internet and found you. Well,
That's
why
a
me?
different call.
Yeah, but why me? Yeah, I don't understand why me. Normally I only work by referral. I only work in a certain neighborhood. So it's interesting to me that you found me out of the blue. Why me? I don't understand. And put them on the spot. Why are you calling me?
Yeah. Those questions are great. I love those. I think all those questions ultimately help you come to the whole point of selling, which is when people buy because to solve a problem.
Right.
And you have to identify what the problem is. And all 6 of those questions, the 4 main ones and 2 little ones, all those help you figure out what the real reason, what the real problem is.
That's right.
Well, we're planning on having my daughter's reception here this summer.
Perfect.
You need to know that.
Yeah, because everything's going to revolve around that. When's that reception? Oh, is there a party in advance?
Is the bride a part of this conversation? Right?
Yeah.
And
good
so
point.
an inexperienced salesperson just skips over all that and they wonder why they don't get the sale. It's because they didn't do their due diligence and all this also builds trust with the client too, subtly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, he listens to me. He asks me good questions. He doesn't just talk the whole time, God
Yeah.
forbid. And so you're building trust just inherently by asking the questions in the first place.
Do you want to know one of the funniest questions that builds trust with people that you would not even consider?
Which one?
If I walk into a home and they have pets or kids, that's an automatic trust builder. Hey, I noticed your dog was barking when we came to the door. I'm doing an estimate for painting the outside of this home. What do we have to worry about to make sure your dog is safe during the painting? Nobody else is going to ask that.
I love that. It's not, oh, I love dogs.
Yeah.
And you're like,
I
oh,
do
how's
love
your
dogs.
dog? Yeah, that's different than that. That's more, a lot more salespeople will do that. Just talk about their dog kind of generally speaking, but I like that angle.
Yeah, I want to write this down. Like if, a lot of people, they're like, don't open the door. Our cat is a flight risk. Okay, so now the question becomes, and this is actually the sale. How do we make sure that when we're here and we need to enter and exit the home, the cat isn't going to run away?
Yes.
Now, that's a huge part of the conversation. Even if they decide later that they want to think on it for a bit and they're thinking about my company versus yours, somebody at that table is going to say, well, Dom really cared about Mitzi, our kid.
Yes.
And I think that's what we need here.
Yeah. And in their view, for that person, all the painters are the same.
Yeah.
except for this guy who's going to take care of my cat.
That's right.
That's really, and you would never have known that if you hadn't asked the question. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's go back in time. Now you're back in the home,
Sure.
and they say, okay, great, thanks for the quote. We're going to think about it. Because what do you do there?
I already made a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah, that it's too late now. So that job has gone into the cold and lonely mountains of Follow-Upistan. That's where that deal went.
You too? I'm not the only one who's gone into
Nope,
that.
you are cold and alone on the top of a gray mountain with the winds howling. You're in Follow-Upistan and you're stuck there, and your chances of closing that deal drop to around 2% ever lifetime. So we really have to avoid getting into a follow-up situation. Now, the way to stop that follow-up situation from happening is actually in that beginning opening phone call. Remember I said I have to ensure that I understand who all the decision makers are, and that I understand the budget, need, timing, and trust, and those two technical things. Because once I have that sense, I'm curious, right? And now I care. I know how this deal needs to get done. So let's say that we get to that point, we've ticked all the boxes, and we still get to follow up. That happens. And actually, I can, if they say to me that they want to think on it, I'm going to turn it around and say, I think you should think on it. This is a big decision. Remember, we're going to be talking about painting your entire home. You're going to have a crew here who you've never seen before. I mean, I've shown you pictures of my crew. You know where we're going to put the gear, right? And we've already talked about the cat, but this is a big decision. So here's what I want you to think about. And then we're going to go through a list of what they need to think about. I said, and the other thing is I'm a project manager. That's what I do in construction. So why don't we do it just like any other project? What's the date that we'll have an answer to move forward, yes or no?
What do you think, honey? What do they say in that situation generally?
I don't talk.
Just talk.
Let them talk it out. Let them talk it through. Yeah. And you'll get an answer. Listen, we're already too late. So that deal has gone into the cold and lonely, windswept mountains of Follow-Upistan.
You're just trying to save the last 2%.
Just trying to save it.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what I do, though, is I flip it back around. And in the future, I've got to do a better job of confirming all of those details.
Yeah.
But once we're in that follow-up phase, then take control of the follow-up phase.
And how do you make sure that the words we have to think about it never come out of their mouth? How do you avoid that? You take them through a certain, because earlier you said sales process is it's a science. It's not just this whimsical thing you do differently every time. Yeah. And so what are the steps?
Well, if they say we have to, let's assume they put on the table, we have to think about it, which by the way, is the only script the homeowner has.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So we have all this training. You're listening to this podcast. You want to get better. You want to understand how to help people more and build your company. That's fine. But the homeowner has one script. They have one script and one act. The one act is, honey, I'll do the meeting so that we can say, I got to talk to you later. So get up and leave or go walk the dog or something. No. That's not allowed. We got to stay here. And I have to use my social skills to keep that happening.
Okay.
But then if they do say, you know, we're going to get back to you, then I've got to start pulling out, what are we going to think about? So I'm glad you said that. This is an important decision. Let's write down all of the things that you guys want to think about. So we write it down. Then I'll just turn to one of the, we'll just say it's a normal nuclear family. Right? Turn to the wife, say, if your husband wasn't here, what are the big 3 questions he's always got when you're facing a decision you want to make that he isn't sure on? What are those 3? Oh, how much will it cost? How long will it take? Will it be good quality? Okay, great. Now I'm going to turn to the husband. Imagine your wife's not here. What are the 3 questions she always asks? Like, because she wants to make sure the family's safe, finances are taken. You know, she wants to make sure everything's perfect here. What are the 3 questions she'd ask if she wasn't here? Okay, how long would it take? How much would it cost? What's the quality? What's the guarantee? How do we know this guy? Okay, write those things down. Okay, good. Well, let's make sure that's the agenda that we clear off right now so you have everything you need to know.
I like that.
To make this decision. Because I can't leave you without those answers. And now we've got the agenda again. But yet you really I have to sit down and hold myself in place because we're in the sale now.
Yeah. One thing my dad, Dick Sylvester, one of the best salespeople I've ever met, his philosophy is most of the time, almost every time, you can see it coming. Yeah. You can see him starting to shift and the conversation's kind of pause and they're about to say, well, Adam, thanks for coming. You know, I love all these quotes and all this stuff. Thanks you did such a great job. And I like you so much. We're going to think about it. You can see it coming a mile away. So interrupt them right before they say it. They say, hey, let me tell you what's going to happen next. Oh, okay. So you don't even because once, like you said, once they say it, the door is slammed closed and you just can't open back up again most of the time. Yeah. And so I like just not even letting them say that in the first place. Yeah. Now, I also don't like filling the void of silence. It's a little bit art. You don't want to just talk and talk and talk. But when you see it coming, you don't let them say it. Hey, let me tell you what's going to happen next. We're going to do X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have a date. We're going to come on that date. And we're going to park in the driveway. We're paint a brief picture for them so they can imagine what's going to happen. Hey, while you guys are thinking about, can I use the restroom? And then I leave.
Oh, wow.
So, because all they want to do is talk, right? They can't talk in front of me. That'd be awkward. So, yeah, it's right around the corner. Great. Yeah. So I go. I learned this in selling insurance 15 years ago. Before you arrive, they had a rule. They said, I don't care how good it looks, we're not buying anything today.
That's right.
But then they can reverse that decision in that little powwow while you're in the bathroom. Right then. Oh, I think we should do that one. Okay, great. You come back. We're going to do that one. Great. And it just takes so much out of so much of the arm wrestling out of it when you leave the table. So that's one of my little hacks.
I appreciate what you just said there, and I want to talk to everybody right now who's listening to the show. What we just went through as a tiny little role play is the game changer you're looking for. It can be hard. It's hard to look inside yourself. I know it's been hard for me to do it, but this is where the success comes in, is doing the little things that other people won't. So if you really believe in your service, if you really believe in your craft, in the quality of what you do, this is what you need to do to help more people.
Absolutely. If Masters of Home Service has been a game changer for you and your business, then we want to hear from you. Go leave us a review and tell us what you think. Help us build this community and level up together. Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit. We already agreed that so let me ask you a clarifying question. I think I know the answer, but I want to make sure. My listeners are probably, they're out there listening too. Are you always going for the close that first appointment, presumably, right? It's not a multi-visit close.
It depends.
Unless it's a huge job?
It depends. So when you're selling closets, for instance, custom designer closets, you've got that first pre-qualification call, which is usually by telephone. Mm-hmm. Then you got a face-to-face where you're doing measurements. Then you might have to go away and do drawings and then come back.
Okay.
So it's not, each of us listening is in our own industry and we think, well, of course, it's a one call. I just show up and tell them how much their lawn's going to cost.
Yeah.
But it's not the same for every industry.
Okay.
Whatever it is, I urge everybody to put down your own sales process flowchart. And I know that sounds very boring, and it is, so it's easy. Just do it on a piece of paper. What are the steps a customer goes through when you win your perfect job?
Tremendous
That's your sales process flowchart. That's it. It's not exciting.
Yeah.
But that's where the money is, right there.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so let's assume that most of our listeners are going for a one-stop close. I mean, sure. I think most of them are probably. Where does follow-up play into this? We both said that the door's been closed, but is follow-up important? Is it not important? You just leave and never see them again, never call them in? What do you think?
So this is the business coach part of me coming out.
Okay.
Did you realize that you've talked about follow-ups 3 times in this meeting so far? So that tells me, as your coach, that follow-ups are important to you and that this is a constant problem. So we need to go back and find out why you're getting requests for follow-up so much. And I would imagine we have to go back to the very beginning of that first face-to-face and clarify an agenda with people right up front.
Okay.
So anybody who's familiar with the upfront selling contract or with Sandler sales training.
I love Sandler.
Right?
Yeah.
The upfront sales contract. What do you need to see, hear, feel, or understand today for this to be a valuable meeting? Mm-hmm. Imagine we were on the other side of this meeting, right? Hey, do you have the confidence to tell me no if it's no? Right? Mm-hmm. All of those things, but we need to put that in the front. And so in that front bit of the meeting, I'm also going to say, imagine that we're at the end of this meeting and I ask you if you want to go ahead with whatever service we're providing, and you tell me maybe, or you say we want to think about it. Where does that leave this? And they're going to go, well, I don't know. So it's okay. It doesn't matter. I'm okay with either yes or no.
Just not maybe.
I can't do anything with maybe.
Yeah.
I just can't.
So powerful.
Right? So if you guys are okay, you can either tell me yes or you can tell me no, but maybe's got to be off the table.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay with that? And they'll be like, yeah, we'll tell you no for sure. Okay. Yeah. Tell me no. You can tell me no now. But if you already think it's no, why am I here?
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, that's the conversation. And I say this all with love in my heart. I'm curious and I care. I am simply the best provider in this area of what we do. And if you're going to get this service done, I got to be the one doing it for you. I just have to.
Yeah. The worst is because I want to transition a little bit into having salespeople and how to train them and all that kind of stuff. Sure. But what you'll get with inexperienced salespeople, oh man, boss, I had a bunch of great appointments today. The only great appointment is one that you close.
Is a closed appointment.
I don't want a fistful of maybes.
Yeah.
And so, but that's what an inexperienced person, well, they're serious. They're going to buy it eventually. They're not going to buy. They got you. They had you come out. They promised you all these things. You're never going to hear from them. So I even have in our, Jobber has an automated text reminder on quotes. And,
right.
Are you going to, and it says, if it's no, just tell us and we'll archive it. And people say, no. Great. Archive.
You
Because
just
high
save
volume, we have
yourself.
a lot of quotes out.
Yeah.
And so, but I'd rather have a no than a maybe.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about training salespeople because there's
Sure.
a lot of listeners out there who have salespeople and they really don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing as a sales trainer. They're not really training. And their people don't really know what they're doing either.
Right.
So
Right.
how do you coach people to coach their people?
Well, I think you actually brought it up earlier in this interview, which is sales training is not product training. Sales training is not about the kind of lawnmower we use
That's
or the kind
right.
of roofing application we do or how we renovate a home. That's technical training.
And it's not order taking either.
Oh, it is definitely not order
It's
taking.
sales.
Yeah. And by the way, it is hard to find good salespeople or hard to train people to be effective salespeople really well, but it's possible. And we know we can do it. Find yourself a system. Start reading some books or find a sales trainer, but you're going to have to invest in sales training somehow, whether it's your own time or whether you have somebody else coming in to do it for you. But if you know that, imagine that I'm going to take you back to a visual here, right? So imagine we're way back thousands of years ago and we're in a cave, like this big overhang. It's leaking a little bit of water. There's families all over the place around some smoky fires. And you're the chief of this little group, right? And the people come up to you and say, we're hungry. And you say, well, I'm going to get my hunters to go out and they're going to go get us an antelope and they're going to drag it back. Those hunters are your salespeople. Would you send them out there with broken arrows or dull arrows or no arrows at all?
Right.
What would you do, right? And so the hunters come back and they don't have anything, which is your point about you came back with a bunch of maybes. And they say, we saw a ton of antelope. Did you get one?
Did you kill him?
Right?
Did I
Did
get
you kill
home?
one? No, we didn't because we didn't have arrows or our arrows weren't sharp or bows didn't have strings. Okay. Now I know what I'm working with, but I want you to imagine yourself as the chief of that little tribe. People are relying on us as owners to go and give them the skills they need to be able to go get that antelope to bring it back and feed the rest.
Is most of your training just come down to practice? Is that really where rubber meets the road? Is practice? Like, what does it look like?
Yeah, it's practice following a set system and then readjust.
Okay.
Because it doesn't work the same for every business. Everybody's got slightly different clients. The owners are a little bit different. The clients are a little bit different, but the basic principles always remain the same, right? Very first thing, we got to be curious and we have to care. I already said that, right? But then it comes down to what do we understand about the client and why they're buying from us and why we'd be a good solution. And then what are our language skills? What's our sales process? Do we have Jobber as a CRM as a way to instantly get quotes out and to be confident that we're giving the right kind of information? All of those things start to come together. And I don't expect that it's going to get done overnight, but we have to constantly be moving ahead one step at a time.
Dom, this is a great conversation. A lot here. I'm going to try to unpack it in 3 takeaways here. Number 1 is ask good questions. And those 4 questions, budget, need, timing, trust, and the 2 other technical questions, ask good questions. That's the first place you need to start with good sales. Number 2 is pre-qualify your callers on the phone. You don't want to go see every single person. That's a waste of your time. Pre-qualify, and you'll be seeing more qualified people in the home. And number 3, don't leave with a maybe. Maybes are not allowed. Yes or no. No's are better than maybes.
That's right. Yeah. And you know, the other thing, if I can add,
Yeah.
is I know it sounds boring. Write down your sales process flowchart. It's just a list of what a perfect sale would look like if you could script it from top to back. Make sure that you're in control of that so that you are ultimately in control of that, because a proper sale is not random. It follows a preset process that ultimately you as a business owner are in control of.
Excellent.
And yeah, be curious and care.
Dom, this is great. How do people find out more about you?
You know, in these days, if you can't find me on social media, you're probably not looking. But I've got a podcast called the Profit Tool Belt Podcast. It's just for contractors, real business owners in real situations and what they're really doing to get themselves through to the next level of their company. So you can always follow me on the Profit Tool Belt Podcast. You're going to be a guest on there pretty soon as well. So if you like Adam, you're going to see him again. And then if you want to know more about the sales process flowchart, get in touch with me. I've actually got a document called 5 Questions That Kick Out Tire Kickers. So if you're finding that yourself or your team is wasting a ton of time going to unqualified deals that we're never going to close, even if you gave it away for free, you should probably get that document. So go to the Profit Tool Belt Podcast. There's a contact me link. Just put the keyword in there, tire kickers, and then I'll know which one to send off to you.
Great. That sounds great. Dom, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Keep teaching about sales. Keep teaching people how to build a better business. You're having a good impact, so keep it up.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening. I hope you heard something that will make your business more profitable and more efficient and improve your sales process. I'm Adam Sylvester, your host. You can find me at adamsylvester.com. Your team and your clients deserve your very best, so go give it to them.